Hi and welcome back to another video. This is Jennifer McGuire and I hope everyone is staying healthy out there. So today I am sharing with you a pretty quick video, for me at least, and this is adding stamping to your stenciling techniques. This is great with any stencils that you may have along with background stamps. You could even use regular stamps if you wanted to. But the idea is that instead of just inking over your stencil, you stamp over it too. I have two different variations of this technique, but let's start with this one here, which is a great one for a one-layer card if you wanted. I'm using this new Pretty Pink Posh Crocus stencil, which is just beautiful. I was really excited to use it. I'll start by spraying the back of it with Pixie spray, which is a temporary adhesive. You spray it on there and then let it dry for a few minutes, and then it'll hold onto paper. Next, I have a piece of masking paper. This is Avery removable adhesive sheets. You could use just printer paper if you wanted to for this, but I find it easier to have some tack on the back, so this is perfect. I'm just quickly tracing the stencil onto that masking paper. So this is just giving me an idea of where each of the different elements are. It doesn't have to be perfectly traced by any means. Then once I'm done tracing all of the stencil, I can go ahead and remove it and put it onto a piece of white cardstock. This is where we'll ink in a moment, and it still has some tack on the back of the stencil, so it'll hold there nicely. Next, we need to cut apart our mask. So I'm cutting around the clusters of leaves in each flower. That way I can mask off the certain areas and ink up lots of parts at once. There are a few different ways you could do this, but this one made the most sense, and I can reuse these pieces on multiple cards. Notice I'm not cutting right up against the edge, I'm just cutting between the pencil lines. I am going to put the large flower mask on the flower in the center. I don't intend to ink this one up, so this mask will stay there the whole time. I wanted to block off this flower because this is where I plan to put my sentiment, so I wanted to keep it white there. Next, I'm taking all of the leaf masks and lining them up with the leaves on the stencil. So I have traced onto my mask, so I know where each goes, and I'm just trying to cover up the leaves on the stencil. That way, once all the leaves are covered, I can ink all of my flowers purple at one time. So here, I'm going to freeze the screen here in a moment so that you can see that all of the leaves are covered, and then the flowers, the 4 flowers are open. That's where I can ink. That flower in the middle, I'm keeping covered for my sentiment. Okay, so now I have a blending brush. You could use any inking tool here and apply any dye ink you want. I chose to use Altenew Dye Inks. And I'm first going down with a light color. I start at the base of the flower and then work my way up. I put the colors that I use up in the top left corner if you want to check that out. So I'm just quickly inking over each of the flowers. Again, starting pretty light-handed. We're going to build up color. I'm coming in with a medium shade of purple here and adding some more depth to it. Keep in mind, you could do this with one purple ink. Just make it light towards the top and darker towards the base. I had my inks handy, so I decided to use all 3, the light, medium, and the dark. You can see how fast it was to color those. Now at the base of these flowers, I wanted them to look kind of like buds opening, so I put a little green at the base of those 2 smaller flowers. Once I'm done, I'm using a dry cloth to wipe the excess ink away from the stencil. I just like to keep it clean so that it doesn't smear. Now it's time to add some stamping over our stencil. I'll be using my MISTI stamping tool. A few people asked about my new MISTI. This is a black version that was created out of a collaboration between Hero Arts and My Sweet Petunia. Now the mouse pad in there is still pink and white. That's because I haven't gotten my order of my black and white mouse pad, but all of the MISTI products in the Hero Arts collaboration are all black and white. It's exactly the same as the MISTIs that have been out for a while, just with the black and white look that I really like. The newer version of MISTIs will be coming out in May. For my stamping over the stencil, I decided to use the Altenew Dainty Swiss Dots stamp, which you've seen me use many times in videos. I feel like a background stamp that has a lot of small detail is best for this technique. So I'm putting my cardstock that I've inked on and the stencil into my MISTI. The masks are all still in place. Now I'm going to line up the Swiss Dot stamp over it, close my MISTI door, and then I'm going to stamp this with a purple ink. Now, when you do the stamping over a stencil, you want to put some muscle into it. So you want to kind of give this a little CPR action. You really want to press it because you want the stamp to get into the nooks and crannies of the stencil. You'll see I didn't press it hard enough there. There are some open areas. So I'm going to really put some muscle into this. Now, once I've stamped this, I could leave it as is. You can see the dots on the flower, but I wanted more dots. After wiping the excess ink away from the stencil, I'm going to put little tape marks around my stamp here in case I want to reposition it back to the original position. Turns out I didn't need to do that. I just wanted you to know why those pieces of tape were there. I'm going to remove this stamp and position it on top of my stencil and paper, but I've offset it a little bit. I'm going to do a zoom in free shot here so you can see. See how the dots are offset so that the new dots that I stamp will line up in between the purple dots that are already there. This way I'll end up with more dots on my background, so the stamping will stand out more. Slightly offsetting a stripe and dot background stamp is a great way to kind of change up the look as I'm doing here. So this time I'm coming in with a lighter purple ink. You could use a white ink here or an even darker ink if you wanted. Going to put some muscle into that to stamp, and you'll see I have more dots now. I have dark dots and lighter dots. It just kind of builds to all that color that we're adding through the stencil. And by the way, yes, I totally intend to count this as my workout for today since I'm putting so much muscle into it. Okay, so I'm going to clean off the stencil once again, and now we can remove the masks. But I did want to mention, if you want to make more than one card at once, you could pick up this whole stencil, masks and all, and move on to another piece of cardstock and repeat the process, which I wish I would have done, but I didn't at the time. Now I'm removing the mask from all of the leaves. We'll set those aside. You can keep them if you want. And then I'm going to add the masks over the flower, so now we can ink up our leaf. Remember, I am keeping that one mask in the center just so I can have a white area for our sentiment. Once all of our flowers are covered, it's time to ink up the leaves. So again, I'm using 3 shades of a green ink, but you definitely could get away with using 1. Just do lighter towards the tips of the leaves and darker towards the base of the leaves. Next, we can add our stamping onto the leaves. So I'll put this into my MISTI stamping tool, and the stamp is already in place from our last purple dot layer we did. So I'll ink this up with the green ink, stamp it on there. You really want to press because you're getting into those narrow leaf areas. Once I'm done, I'll wipe off my stencil and I'll wipe off my stamp, and then we can move to the second position. Now, there are a couple ways I can do this. I can use those little pieces of tape that I put there earlier to get it back to the first position, but instead, I'm just looking through my stamp to line it up with the dark purple dots I did at the beginning. Really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be lined up just exactly. This time, I decided to stamp with white pigment ink, so there would be some white dots on the leaves. And check it out. You have all those dot patterns, and this is perfectly smooth. I feel like it always looks best when you've cut down all that extra inked area and look at that beautiful background. I will heat set this because remember, white pigment ink can smear, and I want to make sure that it stays nice. This background would be perfect for a 1-layer card, and if you wanted it to be 1 layer, you could just stamp a sentiment in the center. But I wanted dimension, so I'm using the Pretty Pink Posh Thinking of You die. This was actually on my favorites list in the past. Now, a lot of people have been asking me how I stack die cuts and get them lined up nicely. It's really easy to do, and I thought I would just go ahead and demonstrate it here in case it's helpful. When I stack die cuts, I either use a liquid adhesive or spray adhesive. Usually liquid, but today I chose spray. I sprayed the top of one of my white die cuts with the spray adhesive, and I'm taking another one and lining it up. I usually start in the center, so I started on the K. Once that was lined up, I work my way to the ends, so I'm working to the G here. Notice how I kind of pinch the die cuts together from the side too. That kind of forces them to stack as I'm doing right here. So I'll freeze it there so you can see. My fingers are on the side of the die cut, so I can be sure that they stack nicely. Then once they're in place, I press it down and usually put something heavy on it while it dries. I did another die cut from some purple glitter paper from Memory Box, and I'm gluing that on top. So I sprayed the top of my white Thinking of You, and then added the purple on top of that. If I were using liquid adhesive instead, I would just do tiny little dots of adhesive over the die cut and then follow the same process to smush them together. Okay, so now I'm going to trim this background down so that it fits on the front of a regular note card. I'm going to turn this background into a piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches so that I can add it to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, and there'll be a nice trim. This time I decided to use liquid adhesive, and I put little drops along the back of my stacked die cut, and I'm arranging the thinking of you there. Okay, a few people have been asking me lately why I mentioned I'm trying not to use as much foam tape and craft foam on my cards. I decided instead to add dimension, I'm going to use scraps whenever I can. So here's a good example. This panel I want to have dimension when I add it to my note card. So on the back of it, I'm gluing 3 pieces of white cardstock. This one I spilled coffee on. You can see the coffee stains on the edges. So I'm going to put that back there. This next one I had die cut Thinking of You twice from, and I'm going to glue that there too. I could have gotten another die cut there, but that's okay. And then my third one, this piece had actually touched a baby wipe and it was all wonky. It's hard to tell there. So I'm going to glue that one there too. So instead of throwing pieces away, mistake pieces, I'm now using those to build up dimension. This will also make it through the mail better because it's secure and strong and has good structure to it, and I don't have to worry about it getting squished. So next time you stamp something and you don't like the results, don't throw it away. Instead, use it for added dimension. Okay, once I was done with that, I have little pretty pink Posh gemstones that I scattered here and there on the background. So here's a look at the final results. You can see the dots that we added. We have the light purple and dark purple dots on our purple flower. And then we have the dark green and the white dots on our leaves. Other stamps that work great for this over stencils are like typewriter background stamps or stripes, dots, tiny little patterns seem to be best. And stencils with lots of open areas also are good. And by the way, I use that dot background stamp to stamp on the flap of our matching envelope. Okay, my second example steps this up a little bit more. This time we're going to stamp over our stencil, but we're actually going to heat emboss underneath it too to get a resist look. So I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock and my MISTI stamping tool. I'm using my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to use the same dot background as I did before. I inked it up with VersaMark ink, and I'm going to stamp that firmly onto our background, and then I'll add white embossing powder and heat set it. So this will be white on white. You'll barely see it. When you tilt it in the light, you'll be able to. But when we add ink over it, these white dots will appear. The stencils I'm using for this card are from Pretty Pink Posh also. These are the Clouds layered stencils. So there are 2 stencils you can layer together to get a cloud background. I'm a big fan of layered stencil sets. They're inexpensive compared to many other layering products and can be used in so many ways. I put some Pixie spray on the back of one of the cloud stencils and let it dry for about 5 minutes. And now I've put it on top of our dot heat emboss background. Next, I'm using a blending brush and applying a light amount of a soft blue ink. This is Sea Breeze from Altenew. I don't want this to have an even look all over. I want some clouds to be a little darker than others. And once I'm done, I can go ahead and wipe away the excess ink. You can see the white dots already, but I wanted to add blue dots too. So I'm putting this into my MISTI, and I'll take my dot background and line it up, again, offset from the white dots that are there. So I'll hold this up to the camera. See how the stamp's dots are in between the white heat emboss dots behind it. So we're going to end up with double the amount of dots. This time I'm stamping with that same Sea Breeze ink. Since I did the clouds light with that ink, the ink will show up when we stamp it on there. I'm going to put some muscle in this and even double stamp it to make sure that I have some good dots showing through. And now we have white heat emboss dots and blue dots on each of our clouds, and I'm so sorry you keep seeing the back of my head. Don't count the gray hairs there, just ignore them. I then can wipe my stencil clean, and there we have a fun background of clouds. Now, I could stop here if I wanted, but you know me, I'm not really good at stopping when it's simple. So I'm going to take that other stencil, the other one that came in the set, and I'll place that over our background. It again has a little Pixie spray on the back. So this time I'm going to apply an even lighter amount of ink over the clouds. These clouds will be a lighter blue with just white dots on it. Only the first clouds will have the blue dots. I can wipe away the excess ink, and there we have a fun cloudy sky background. This is going to be a pretty simple card, so by adding the stamping and embossing to these clouds, it really steps it up a bit. I wanted the sentiment on this card to really stand out. I want to send this to somebody who I know is really struggling with all that's going on. So I decided to use spring blessings. I think focusing on spring is such a good thing to do. This is another new die set from Pretty Pink Posh. I die cut it 3 times from white cardstock and once from a black glitter cardstock and glued that on top. So they're all stacked together. This has lots of dimension to it, and I used white cardstock scraps that I had left over from stamping errors to build that dimension. So I'm gluing the word Spring Blessing down, and I also have the Pretty Pink Posh Bee Friends stamp set, which is an older one. I stamped some bees from that with black ink on white cardstock and colored them in with yellow and black and gray markers. I added them to my card with some little foam squares. That time I decided to use foam squares. And then I added little black antenna on there with a black pen. I also scattered a few little pool colored gemstones in the background from Pretty Pink Posh. And there we have a pretty simple card design that allows a lot of the background technique to show. So you can see how some clouds have blue and white dots and some just have white. Adds a little bit of texture to that background too. So there you have a couple technique ideas for using your stencils and your stamps together. Again, I feel it's best to use stencils with large open areas and stamps with tiny patterns, but you could also use like a sentiment stamp and just stamp it repeatedly over the stencil openings. So give this technique a try. If you wanted to see any of the products I used today a little closely, you can check my YouTube description below. In the middle are a couple other stenciling technique videos for you. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. I'm really thinking about everyone out there and hope you're taking care. To all of those who are still working to make sure that we can all live our lives as normal as possible, I appreciate it. I appreciate it so very much. I'll see you again soon with a much longer video, and take care.